City of Stevens Point Board of Water and Sewerage Commissioners meeting, recorded October 14, 2024.
All right, we're ready. Call the meeting to order of the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. The roll call is taken as,
Paul and May excused.
and from there, we move on to the minutes for our meeting of September 9th.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any other questions on the minutes? Hearing none, please indicate by aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none against, the minutes of September 9th are approved. And from there, we move on to the approval of department claims. First up is the Water Department for the month of September, right? Or, yeah.
September, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't have any questions.
I guess I had one question that I didn't, there were two related to the generator repairs at well 11. One was 59451, and then there was one earlier. Is one parts and the other just, one of the vendors was, Cummins, and then the other,
It's 59382, yeah.
So it's probably Total Energy Systems.
yes. Yeah, so the one is a maintenance, they discover something, Cummins,
Yeah, so Total Energy is Kohler's proprietary engine maintenance provider. They come out of Green Bay, and so they came over to diagnose why one of the generators wasn't running up to speed or up to par, and find out that it's the gas regulator that actually was, the parts inside were worn, and they don't work on that, so they had to come and do that for $2,200, tell us to get somebody else. Now Cummins is the one that serviced it. Yeah. And that service call by Cummins is just a service call itself. He was there Friday to replace it, which we paid the bill today, or approved the bill today. So you'll see another one.
see another one, okay. All right, no other questions on water, we'll move on to sewage for September.
I don't have any questions.
Ray, you're good, okay, on to stormwater.
For me.
Ray, is that the?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Ray is good, and then on to fiber, community area network.
I will say that we've seen this be a very short list every month. We will have a large payment to a project coming out of this fund soon. In fact, they'll take almost half that fund, a change order into one of the annual reconstruction projects that was awarded. It'll be through that project. So it may look like a payment to the city, but it'll be for many different areas in town where we needed conduit and fiber extended, and it was done through the already approved contract as a change order. So you'll see that in the months to come.
I saw a minimum deposit there of $261. Is that, who is depositing, you know, I mean, it take a lot of deposits to get us up to.
Yeah, so we, each of our endpoints, I'm assuming this is one of our customers, Jen, or is this
I'm trying to remember what that was.
bank deposit, September? The dollars and cents part of it doesn't really make a lot of sense, to be honest with you. But we will get, we bill them all at the same time, don't we, all the customers?
Cyber, like, one, I don't remember what it is.
Okay.
I could totally go look for you if you
Or,
want me to.
Well, you know, and I had asked in the past, you know, $500,000, is that an interest-bearing account, or is that,
Yeah.
is it?
Well, I don't know how much of this, because we still have our deposits as public utilities, right? So it's as a whole. We take a portion of the whole and make sure that it's interest-bearing, stuff like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
We don't have a, we initial and sign off on invoices, not on revenue. So, you know, and people can pay us all day long. We're not.
It just comes in, yeah.
Yeah. But be worth checking. I can email you guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, that is the extent of the utilities, expenses. Could I, have them, let's see, get a motion to approve, and,
I'll move to approve the claims.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no negatives, our expenses are noted as approved. Department claims. So then on to water supply and distribution reports.
Yeah.
Eric?
Besides what I have printed here, I just wanna let you know, well 12 actually starts today. They mobilized this morning, or started to. So the next couple of weeks, they will be drilling well 12.
Oh,
So at the end of Ridge Court. That's all I really had to add, unless you guys have any questions on water.
how long do they anticipate, it'll take to drill?
I believe 2 weeks, well, total on site, I believe is 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's probably only several days of activity on the site.
Right now, grout's scheduled for Wednesday, so they'll, should be done with most of it by the end of the week.
And what is the shaft size on that? Is that a single, just a well pipe
well.
down there? Or
Yeah.
is it not,
Yep.
not like on the,
It's not a collector, it's just a single vertical.
Right.
Yep.
And when does it actually start supplying water to the system?
A lot of work to do on the other end.
Okay, that's what I suspected.
After the well, the next big part of the project is, constructing, the main essentially from the new well to the old treatment plant. So we go down the hill, down a driveway,
Yeah.
and connect to that. And then in the treatment plant, there's some upgrades that are needed. So that part of the project is in design right now.
Mm.
And so the well will be there and ready to pump water, but we need to do the treatment plant upgrades first. Part of that is more generator work. We're moving one of those generators from well 11 to the well 12 treatment plant, the future. So we have backup power there. So there's more to be done there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us a shot in the dark for how long it'll take.
Let's see, what are we at?
18
Coming up
months?
to 25.
18 months?
I'm hoping we're online in 26 sometime,
Yeah.
I'd say. By the end of 26 would be good goal.
Yeah, it's not a super complicated, design or anything. The plant is there. There's some upgrades needed. So finished design, bidding, awarding. On some of these though, some of the materials are a huge lead time, you know, depending on what we get into. Thankfully, our filter vessels are there. Those are 1.5 years right now. So we don't need to order those, I hope,
Really?
you know, yeah.
Just maybe media replacement, even though that was fairly new in 15.
The thing that we'll probably be surprised to see is that all the materials related to integration are really long lead times right now, I understand. And we will be getting into some SCADA upgrades there. So that might be what holds it up as much as anything, that and the integrator. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Good.
all right, do we need to accept that report, or is that a?
Nope.
No, okay, we'll move on then to, sewage treatment, operation.
All right, good afternoon. We met all of our DNR required, permit limits for the month of September. Basically, right now, it's, around the plant is just trying to get everything outside accomplished, any maintenance on equipment that sits outside before the cold sets in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of what we're doing. Anybody have any questions?
All the dark lines are lower than the hashed lines.
Yes,
Similar to
always good to see.
Yeah.
Okay, with no questions on sewage treatment operations, move on to construction and maintenance. Wayne?
Sure. I guess I'm gonna start by commenting on some of our, external contracted out jobs. One being in Mason Street here. All of the utilities are finished being installed over here. In fact, I think they just have a little bit of paving to finish today. And, it'll just be some topsoil shouldering restoration here. But all of the utilities are done here, as well as, the Badger Ave job in the business park. All of the utilities are installed on Badger Ave. Forest Creek, north of Fleet Farm, I think all of the main utilities are in. They have, a handful of services to complete between today and tomorrow, and then that job will be completed for utility work anyways. And then the North Side project looks like they are not going to complete this year, but as far as Georgia Street on Walker is where they'll be leaving off on for this year, but, all of Maria will be done, and Second Street and Walker up to Georgia. So our internal crews, we have, we're installing, some storm main on West Scott Street. That was a continuation of a project we did a number of years ago. And then water crews are working on, some replacing laterals outside of the Walker Street job. Other than that, I think that's about it. Televising, cut, jet, flush is all as normal.
And I don't know where we ended last month, but we've wrapped up, maybe I missed it just now because I was trying to think through this next item, but, industrial park?
Yeah, since the last meeting, we completely finished industrial park project.
So Industrial Park Drive and West Scott Street are both, pipework jobs that we're doing with our own crews in-house. So it's not a big bid-out project. It's a very specific, dig a trench, put a pipe in type thing to increase our service level to those areas. At Industrial Park, when we have big rains, we routinely have a pump and a staff member out there for hours and hours and hours and hours, maybe portions of days, to keep water off the road. So now that's connected with a gravity storm sewer that's right by Station 2. So we shouldn't have to staff that anymore, during big rain events, which is important because we don't have so much staff that they can be sitting around manning a pump, during a rain event. And the other one on the west side is kind of a building on stuff we've done over there before too. The water's very high. There's a lot of issues with roadside water and everything else, so that's us extending our storm sewer to collect more and send it out the collection system. So those are really the big in-house efforts towards the later part of this construction season.
Do you anticipate, the utility work being done on Via Drive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Paving, restoration, everything should be done on Maria this year.
That was a challenging one, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why has it taken so long to do the rest of Maria Drive?
Yeah, there were a couple things.
It's tougher to work on over there.
I think the highlights, we ran into some problems in the intersection of Second and Maria with AT&T. There's a vault that had to be reconstructed that probably added 3-4 weeks.
Easily, sure.
There was some land acquisition right at Union, or Third, it's the Third Street extension that's going in. That took some time and finagling, and that was kind of interesting too. And with the tear down of a building always comes things like asbestos abatement and everything like that. So yeah, that was a unique one for sure, yeah.
I was just gonna observe on that industrial park, project that I did notice that there is more water accumulating in that basin. Now, is that
Well, we're,
imagination, or is that just?
well, it's probably not. We have a larger land area going to that basin now,
Uh-huh.
instead of just infiltrating.
Okay.
So, yeah.
'Cause, you know, in general, it seems dry there.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
Mhm.
nothing, I was like,
Yeah,
what's it there for? But
Yep.
it did on some of the events in the past, and we didn't have a lot of rain events. in the
right,
last-
yeah, it would make sense
30
for there
years,
to be
so
more
it's just-
water there, yeah.
Looks like it's doing its job.
Yeah.
All right, next up is, lateral line replacement?
Yeah. This is I have a handout here. I'm gonna introduce it a little bit first. Every year, several of us, Shane, Eric, I get involved in talking with a resident who's got collapsed or several, I shouldn't say a resident, who have a broken lateral, collapsed lateral that needs to be replaced, sanitary lateral in the right of way, and have the distinct pleasure of telling them that they own that lateral, right?
Yeah.
It's their cost to reconstruct it, and that always comes with a couple of other challenges. What's it gonna cost? The answer there is, I'd say anywhere from $4,000 to north of 10 somewhere, depending on the situation, and it's variable. And then comes, well, do you have payment plans or grants or anything? The answer is no. So it's a real challenge, right? So I'll hand these down. I do have a couple extra if you guys are interested. What I've outlined here is just a really, really beginning, let me send this one, send that if you would. Really, really beginning, but I wanna start with something else. So, something that we deal with, constantly looking for a solution. But on top of it, I don't know if you guys are aware, I ran this, by the mayor's office, not this, a different thing. I applied for a program a few years back through Duke University, and they, on the third cycle or something, selected me, so I'm in that program now. And one of the big things in there is you need to pick something of a capstone project. And in order to find something that has some benefit here, I want to kind of tackle something that was a known need and actually has a solution. So it's not just and this, I think, checks those. So part of my effort here is to kind of push on this problem and push for a solution in a timeline inside of that project, but more importantly, to push for a solution because these customers, nobody likes hearing, I need $4,000 to $10,000 from you, and it's non-optional, and I can't help you, and we're not gonna finance it. So if we go through here, what I show there is the issue, and that is that the property owners have these issues, and the second bullet, which is the most significant, is that almost nobody's aware of that, right? I mean, you don't ever really buy a house thinking, well, what's the condition of that pipe out in the street, right? And if you did, you might ask for that to be part of a home inspection, which it never is. So none of the things that go along with homeownership, including homeowner's insurance, the inspection of a home when you buy it, none of them account for this ever, right? So if you look at the picture there, this is kind of a worst-case scenario example. This is a house in town. This isn't one that we replaced the lateral on, but it is exactly like several that we have. If you look at the green line in the road, that represents a sewer main, and if you look at the smaller green one coming off of that, that represents their lateral. And then if we were to replace the lateral that is within the right-of-way, our excavation could look something like that red box. And you'll see in that red box, there's, to the point of the bullet points below, there's paved road, in this case it's asphalt, there's curb and gutter, there's driveway apron, and there's sidewalk. So this is one of those cases where we can be, in fact, I think when we did this last, our estimate to her was 9,000 something, the most recent one.
Believe so, yes.
Yeah, I don't know where the bill ended up, but it was.
9,600.
9,600, okay. And this is, you know, very much what you can find in the part of town that has sidewalks, right? Because usually there's curb and gutter too. Now, you get into a part of town that's a rural cross-section, where it's just paved road and driveways, and you start taking out the potential for sidewalk and curb and gutter, you could still get into their driveway a little bit. So that's why it's so variable, you know, the 4 to 10. We don't really know.
So what prompts this? Like, does the pipe collapse or
Back up.
roots in it?
Yeah. So what?
And what, all of a sudden the sewer's backing up? Like,
Yeah, so they'll have wastewater in, or sewer in their basement, they call Roto-Rooter. Roto-Rooter comes out and can't get through, or does, and says that it's bad.
yeah,
And then we do what we can to investigate from our side, because we can go
Yeah.
from the main up with cameras. And before any real work's done on the right of way, we do everything we can to witness what's going on.
sure.
But when it needs to be replaced is when it's very clear that it's gonna continue to be a problem, and that is broken pipe, collapsing pipe, stuff like that. I mean, offset joints, things like that.
So all of that needs to be dug up and that's
Mhm.
why,
Basically something like that area in red,
okay,
yeah. And then restored, right? So in a project like this, the most expensive part, or half or more, is replacing surfaces, you know,
sure.
concrete, asphalt, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So not looking for any action here today, but, the possible solution, wanted to kind of go over that. So sewer rates are controlled here locally by you and Common Council. So what I'd like to do is investigate options a little more and then come back to you with a proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some communities that are doing different things in the state. But the options that are most obvious are to collect a small fee. And that could be, and this is just example, this is very draft form, right? But consider it something like $2 a month per sewer customer. And then that $2 a month would ensure that nobody has that surprise $10,000 expense. So it's really a this or that, right? Like, do we charge $2 a month and cover it on behalf of everybody? Or do we leave those that are prone to this to handle that expense on their own? Now, here's a complicating factor. When we go through the projects that Shane was talking about, our annual projects that are wrapping up, like Maria, like down here, when we do those projects, we, the utilities, we pay for new laterals because they're in our way to construct new mains, right?
Property line.
Yeah, to the property line. So one of the issues that we face is a bit of a timing issue where, the ones that are most likely to collapse are the ones in the oldest part of town, right? And they're probably clay pipes. And somebody may have a collapsed lateral. We may have to replace that. We may have to charge them $9,600. And we might come and reconstruct that road 2 years later,
Oh,
or 4 years later, even 6 years.
in the way.
Anything shy of 40 years later, you know, I mean, because it's a lot of expense, right? So this also goes to kind of equalize that whole issue, because, you know, even though they're working by your house right now, and everybody in the city's paying for that, right?
Yeah.
My rates go towards it, your rates go towards it, yours and yours, they all go towards it. So it's a matter of kind of figuring out, well, given that in some cases, this is an issue of old infrastructure aging out and collapsing, and we just aren't there yet. And in some cases, maybe it is gonna be 20 years before we get there. But those ones where it's a short time are particularly hard to swallow, you know?
How, is it predictable how long ago the ones that will collapse were installed?
Oh, yeah, we know when they're all installed. And, you know, our reconstruct projects that we coordinate with the city, so everything gets done, every pavement, every hard surface, every pipe. We focus on the oldest, most needy every time. So we're checking them off as fast as we can.
Okay.
But that is just shy of 1% of our infrastructure every year.
I know it wasn't replacement, it was like every 150 years or
Yeah,
something.
right now,
I don't
we're
know.
over a 100-year replacement
Yeah.
schedule.
Right,
We're trying to get there, but even at that, it's 100 years.
oh, right,
Yeah, and the materials we put in today, I'm pretty confident will probably last a lot longer than the materials we put in 100 years ago.
Yeah,
But
like the-
nonetheless, we've got 100 years of that to work through, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, just wanted to throw this out there as a, be on the lookout for this item next time. Those secondary bullet points I put in there really get to the in-house or third-party administrator thing. We'll talk about that more if this becomes an issue. I've had a lot of discussions with a part of the state that I didn't know existed called the Office of Commissioner of Insurance. And they are some great folks, actually. Really, really interesting to talk to. And I think what I'm going to end up hearing from them is that this does not constitute insurance or property service contracts, so we'd probably have a easier time of going about it there, but I need to get more back on that. And just that there are utilities in Wisconsin that are collecting a fee like this for this purpose. I don't know how many. I'm going to kind of cast a broad net and see who's out there doing it. And I can report back, but it's just a little effort right now that I wanted to report on. No action needed, just update.
Just a question, you mentioned clay pipes, are cast iron also in that?
Yep. Really, I mean,
Collapsing.
there's so many variables too. One of the, just for the sake of simplicity, I represented it this way, but turn that picture this way and look at it from a cross-section perspective. One of the other things that can really impact cost is depth, right? This red box gets bigger the deeper you go. Because our soils are so sandy that you have basically a 1-to-1 slope to your deepest point. So if you're going all the way to the main, and it's a 15-foot deep main instead of an 8-foot deep main,
Right.
15 at 1-to-1, you have a 30-foot opening, 8 feet at 1-to-1, 16-foot opening, right? So there's a lot of variables that make it an inconsistent fee that one resident would pay versus the other. And
If somebody can't afford that at all, like, does it get added to their property tax?
we're
What
running into this more and more. So
Yeah,
what we're finding, and I've talked this over with Corey at City Hall too, the comptroller, treasurer, and we've talked about payment plans. And do they want to do them? No. Do we want to do them? No. Do we have to do them? Kinda. Because if we're gonna do the work and say that,
yeah,
because if we don't do the work and there's no sewer lateral, the house can actually be deemed as unlivable.
right.
And so we need to participate in the problem with the solution, and it's just how we get there.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I look forward to, your analysis.
Yeah. We'll talk again soon.
I just, looking at the diagram, though, you've solved a third of their problem. In this case, wouldn't they also be expected to address the lateral all the way into the house?
Yes, and actually, on the second page, the in-house versus third-party administrator thing, that's where we talk about, excess in the fund. So we can't spend public money on private property, but if this is part of a fund that is managed outside the utility, there may be room for grants, there may be room for low-interest financing, and, not only that, I put affordability in there as a, unexplained, bullet point, but the state of Wisconsin, issued one pilot program on the water side now, not on the wastewater side. One pilot program, and that was the city of Madison for affordability rates, basically saying you collect a small amount from everybody for those who can't pay their bill to have some assistance. And the latest group of PSC commissioners have basically indicated, and it's not a final rule or anything yet, I don't think, that they're not going to renew that pilot program as a permanent program because they feel that it's unlawful based on equitability. So a municipality should not say, we're gonna take money from you and pay for their bill. Now, we've done it on the electric side, which is also a PSC-regulated utility, for decades. So I don't know where their logic's coming from, but if we're gonna get into any programs like that, this environment could actually help fund some of that in a way that we predetermine through an agreement and a contract, if there's excess funds in there that aren't needed for sewer line replacement. So, if this becomes a reality, I'll certainly outline some of that and kinda go through what we could do with it, but you're right, the private side is still a concern. But if there was nothing else, at a minimum, what we'd be able to say is that you can work with a third party who can set up a payment plan for you, who can do these other things, and in this environment, maybe there'd be, another option, and that is financing the work on the private side. Who knows?
Sure.
A lot of opportunities, right?
Are there potential for direct benefits? Say you had a clean out installed at the right of way, or is that just something else to maintain and fail?
Yeah, I mean,
You know, particularly if I had it in the driveway.
right, I think that zoning code says 100 feet outside the building, and then every 100 feet after that. Is that right? You're supposed to have a clean out? Most of the time with our residences, you don't get to that, and so there's nothing. And a lot of times, the issue is at the connection at the right of way. Because when you think about it, you could have a 120-year-old home, and 30 years ago, we came through and did a street reconstruction, and so there's that point where the new and the old come together. And so sometimes that right there is the issue, sometimes it's at the main, sometimes it's in the middle. It's as varied as every address in town, you know, they're all a little different. If you've got a really deep main and you've got a riser coming straight up, sometimes those are the issue, so it's a variable problem.
When you guys redo the mains and the lateral from the main to the property line, do you check the lateral going further toward the house?
From the right of way on, not really. I mean, if we see something, like when they cut the pipe and it looks like it's collapsed or something, of course, we'll say something.
Okay.
But that's, you know, that first 8 feet that you can visually inspect is probably about it at that point. But we do public informational meetings ahead of big projects, and so people generally, and with our guidance too, put it together. It's like, oh, I've had sewer issues in the past. I've had backup issues. I have to get Roto-Rooter here every 3 years, or every year, or every 6 months, whatever it is. And so they definitely know we're coming through, putting in new infrastructure. It might be the time to redo my line as well. So but that's a very small percentage of people in the city, right? Like I said, 1% a year or less.
Yeah.
So we're not hitting all the need there. But we certainly do coordinate with them when they say, this portion from my house to the street, I want to replace, you know, introduce them to the inspectors, and we figure out which plumber they're using, and then we coordinate so it's as efficient as possible.
Should have known that a couple months ago. That's something else to just worry about.
Yeah.
At least it's only to the right.
Yeah. That's all I've got on that.
Okay, we have a notice of an employee seeking an elected office position, and I think we've...
This will go on personnel tonight as well, and this is just fulfilling the requirements of one of our policies that says when an employee engages in political activities that involve election, partisan or not, that there's things you have to do. So this is that notice. On the personnel side, there's a analysis to say, is this in any conflict or whatsoever? This is routine. We've done this one for Pam several times now.
Yep.
And years ago, we had another employee that ran for a town office that we did several times. We've never seen conflict, so this is for your consideration. I would actually recommend a motion to approve this.
Oh, I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. And then on to director's report.
Nothing to add. I spoke enough.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, thanks for reaching out to Duke and seeing what you could do.
Oh, yeah, it's actually a neat program. I'll share with you guys a little more, maybe offline, about the whole thing, but it's been really valuable so far. And my mouse isn't
Motion
working.
to adjourn.
Oh,
to
so
adjourn.
moved.
And, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.